Hello all of you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com. Yes, I'm still here in the isolation station in Wales, and yes, I am wearing the same black hat and green mint hoodie combo. I like it. It makes me feel safe and warm. And yes, I am back again for my weekly format that is the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, where I, the crown jewels of What Culture, take a list that is chosen by you. Yes, you with the socks that aren't matching at the moment, but in this current state, no one's going to really care about it. You do you, mate. Yes, you get to choose what list I present to you each and every week. And I'm also here in the live section. Say hello, live me. Good. Probably has said something very, very useful right now. And today, we have got a brilliant suggestion from Never Forgetful, which is on updates that absolutely ruined their games instead of fixing anything. And this is the thing, we actually exist in a pretty interesting time within the video game industry because games can be updated on a whim. If there's a problem, they can immediately go out and get fixed. I mean, wasn't the case back in the day when you used to own games like that if they shipped with a problem on the disc, that was your problem, buddy. Sounds like a you problem. I mean, I got a disc that was the holiday demo season for the PS2, which not only hard froze my PS2, but also deleted all of my saves off my memory card. Good. Great. So I'm going to relive my pain today by talking about other updated games that actually just went down the toilet. But remember, if you've got any suggestions for next week's episode, drop them down below. I'll send out my little demon rats. Apparently I've got rats now, and they'll scurry through all of them, grab out the information, we'll pick one, I'll eat it, digest it, throw it up onto a bit of paper, and then deliver it for you lovely people, and Osley will edit it and make it look half presentable. But until that point, let's get on with that bloody list, shall we? Number 10, Incursions update revealed a loot exploit, The Division. So barely a month after it was released, The Division got a huge update in the form of version 1.1, which had an update in it for incursions that were raid-style boss dungeon, end-of-game dungeons at the end that allowed players to compete for some pretty sweet and spicy loot. And who doesn't love a bit of spicy loot? Caliente. But there was one massive problem. The first incursion, Falcon Lost, shipped with a major glitch that allowed players to slide through walls and bypass the end-of-level boss, or at least cut a huge chunk of the fight out completely. Oops! Things got even worse for the devs when they found out that this glitch also meant that the game didn't register the team as picking up the loot in question, so that they could just repeat this glitch over and over again and get multiple drops from a single session. So as you might expect, this completely destroyed any end game plan that the developers had because their gameplay loop was now out of the bloody window, but it also destroyed the PvP dark mode area. Ooh, dark mode scary, because now players just had access to the best guns in the game. And that's not fun. Guns aren't fun. Anti-NRA, take a stance. Ubisoft eventually provided a fix and even banned repeat offenders, but this screw-up absolutely derailed what should have been a great extension of the game and severely dwindled the player base's interest in the title. And it would take months for The Division to regain that momentum again. Which they lost with The Division 2, which wasn't actually that good, I'm just saying. Don't hurt me. Number 9. New game enhancements ruined the game for legacy players. Star Wars Galaxies. Boom, it's 2003 and we are playing Star Wars Galaxies. It's a pretty great game. It's really fun. Sony Online Entertainment have done a great bang-up job for fans of the franchise because now you can fulfill all of those fantasies of being a bloody Wookiee. Hey! That's not what he sounds like. However, what they chose to add to this mix in the new enhancements update was utter shit. Overnight, these changes took all of the nuance and complexities out of the game and turned Galaxies into a dumbed-down and mediocre at best World of Warcraft clone. Thousands and thousands of hours completely were rendered meaningless, all of the voices of the player base screaming out and then silenced all at once. And in fact, speaking of Obi-Wan, they actually had to refund a ton of orders for the upcoming Trials of Obi-Wan expansion because of this. In just a few weeks after its release, once bustling marketplaces were reduced to mere ghost towns, and even Sony's John Smedley called the NGE experience stupid. And given that it effectively killed Galaxies, yeah, it definitely was. Number 8. 1.10 update made the game too difficult. Diablo 2. Now this is the thing, in this day and age, most players who've had even a whiff of Dark Souls or a sip from their mugman of Cuphead and games of that ilk will tell you challenge is most definitely a good thing. But the update that came out for Diablo 2 back in the day, well, that turned that community into a bunch of big boo-hoo babies, let me tell you that much. This was Blizzard trying to shake things up, and the patch buffed enemy health, nerfed some player abilities, and also reduced the quality of drops from higher tier enemies. But this is the thing, it made it so difficult that it wasn't even fun. If you had specced out your character class in a very specific way, you were boned, brother. It completely upended the entire way to play this game, and it wasn't even fun when you were playing by its new and revised rules. So most players did what most people do when things get difficult. They f***ing quit. Number 7, 1.08 update added predatory microtransactions. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Now this is an absolute boo, the crowd hates that boo moment if ever there was one. So after getting glowing reviews across the board for the Modern Warfare Remaster, Activision decided to be absolute cheeky whippets and decided to add in an update that completely changed the way that the game played. As in, they basically put in microtransactions that weren't cosmetic, getting that sass out right now, it was not cosmetic, they added in bonus stuff that introduced a pay-to-win mentality, and they ruined effectively what is, or was, the greatest Call of Duty game ever. Activision, Bubby, why do you want to f things up like this so much? You did the same with Crash Team Racing, you dirty little scoundrels. And actually, while I'm getting on my soapbox right now, Osley, edit my head on a soapbox, if you will. The thing is that reviewers, like our outlets, and the relationships that we have with publishers like Activision, it's kind of a symbiotic thing. They rely on word of mouth and us pushing out reviews and stuff like that to tell people about these games, and we rely on them to actually give us these games to actually make us legitimate. But the problem is that when they do this, they undermine the reviews that we've done, because this isn't the game that we reviewed. We didn't give this version with the predatory microtransactions, say like 9 or 10 out of 10. No, we would have given that a much lower score because that is Billy bullshit. I'm off my soapbox now. Activision, you suck. Number 6, evolution of combat killed the game's popularity. RuneScape. So even though the ever classic, ever beloved, and my god, that's ugly game, RuneScape, released back in 2001, it was actually in 2012 when the status quo was shaken to its very core. This was thanks to an update called the Evolution of Combat. As per its title, the patch attempted to update RuneScape's undeniably rudimentary combat for a new generation of players. But the byproduct of this was that PvP became massively unbalanced, and for an update intended to evolve combat, it ultimately ended up feeling more dull and simplistic. Above all else, many fans just felt that the developers had kicked this out to pull RuneScape in line with other MMORPGs at the time, and that isn't what this game was about. It was leading the charge in so many ways for so long, so for it to suddenly just bow down and become a little toady of World of Warcraft? No. Brother Stinky. In the years that followed, RuneScape's popularity pretty much started to tank, and it was only in 2014 when it started to get it back by basically using the legacy update to roll all of these changes back to when things were good. And I mean, things were so good that Osley, who edits this and who is an absolute diamond in the rough, has spent over 5,000 hours on that game.
Hell yeah, brother.
Number 5, the final update let enemies see through walls. Far Cry. So PC busting giant Far Cry was pretty much the jewel in Cryptech's crown for quite a few years. But unfortunately, the last update that the developer put out for this game in 2006 completely broke it. This patch, numbered 1.4, was meant to be the last update for the game and was aired at tidying up a few loose ends. But long story short, it added in a new bug that allowed enemies to, let me just check my mental notes here. Oh yes, see through f***ing walls! Goodbye trying to be stealthy, goodbye all sense of immersion, hello hole in the wall where I've punched it because f*** you. Now of course players could simply roll back their version of the game to one that didn't have this problem or download one of the many fixes that the fan community had made, but it wasn't until last year, yes that's right, last year, that the GOG version of this game actually came with a hotfix included. That is lazy, that is so lazy. Number 4, the update that broke AI and multiplayer, WIPEOUT HD. Though Wipeout HD received rave reviews when it was released, it wasn't until a patch that tried to add in crossplay between this game and Wipeout 2048 came along and utterly put the entire thing on its arse. The 2.3 update, or 2.4 for North America, snapped many of the game's AI routines, ensuring that computer racers wouldn't fire their weapons or even use turbo boosts, and it certainly made tougher tracks a lot easier, but at the same time, a cakewalk like this just isn't fun. And as a kind of knee-jerk reaction to this, the leaderboard got absolutely destroyed and loads of ranks were reset, meaning that by the time that the developers came around to finally release a patch, their entire fanbase was wiped out. Number 3, 1.27 update left multiplayer unbalanced, KILLZONE 2. Okay, so if you had the, let's just say, joy of playing KILLZONE 2's substantial multiplayer on launch, and you decided to do so as playing as the tactician, I have one question for you. Are you f***ing mad? Choosing to play as this character was absolutely pointless. He was as weak as watered down cucumber broth, and his air support system was absolutely made of pure whiff. Calm down, Jeremy, it's the wrong format. Or at least, like I said, that was the case at launch, leading to Guerrilla Games promising a patch that would balance things for the better. Well, the result of patch 1.27 definitely did make things better for the tactician, because they became the king of kings, the god of gods, and if you chose anyone else, then goddamn were you going to be punished for your idiocy. This is the thing, I play Warhammer quite a lot, and there's a thing called power creeping in that game, where basically one of the factions gets huge boosts and the rest of the factions have to pray to the gods that the developers will eventually release rules that will allow their factions to be competitive again. This was kind of like that, aka not that much fun for everyone, bar those playing as the tactician. Number 2, the 1GB fix removed the best part of the game, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. Right, so Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric is not a good game, and at this point I would like Owsley to put up pictures, images, or anything else of broken glitches or anything stupid about this game to instantly silence the critics that I know that are watching this video and are leaping to its defense. It's a pile of piss. You don't want to spend money playing with a pile of piss. And yet, you know what? The jump glitch that was so infamous about this title actually was probably the best thing going, because streamers and Let's Players posted out videos praising that this was the only fun thing to do in Sonic Boom. However, 2 months later, everyone's fun was ruined when the developers decided to put out a 1GB patch which removed the jump glitch, thereby making you have to play the game as intended. And I tell you what, if you want to ruin a game quicker than this, you tell me that I have to play Sonic Boom without any of this. Why anyone would choose to do it in the first place is just beyond me. It's a shit game. And number 1, a difficulty adjustment patch caused unbalanced difficulty. BIONIC Commando Rearmed. And so we end with BIONIC Commando Rearmed, a glorious throwback love letter to the arcade heyday, and it was pure chef kiss. Well, that was until the developers decided to mess around with the difficulty system. Almost a year after release, a patch was introduced that aimed at making the game easier and more accessible for new players and harder for those looking for something more. However, they made the easy mode too easy because they gave you unlimited lives and you respawned right next to where you died, and they made hard mode so brutally hard that climbing Everest with my nipples would have been an easier task. If you had beaten this game on easy and normal mode, there was still no way that you were ready for hard mode. The difficulty curve was far more consistent before the patch was released, and afterwards, players were either forced to breeze their way through at an embarrassing amount of ease, or put up with hard as nails endgame on hard difficulty. This was basically a game about robot arms, getting their developers to program it to give you a solid metal middle finger. And I was having none of it. Also, his wife is his arm. Never gets old, that one. His wife is his arm. What were they thinking? And there we go, my little demons. That was another episode of Choose Your Own Adventure. Thank you so much for joining in, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know down below what you thought about it, as well as your suggestions for next week's episode. And if you want to follow me further to chat about all things video games or just silly banterous stuff, like tell me what your favourite moment in Bioshock Minerva's Den was. Very specific, I know. It was just popped into my head because I was looking over at a set of pipes over there. then do so at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about updates, about games that realized that something wasn't working quite right and tried to fix them. And this is the thing, you should never be afraid to try. It is one of the hardest things in life to start a new venture, to try a new skill, to learn something, and you need to be prepared not only for hopeful success, but also inevitable failure sometimes. Sometimes that will happen, and that's okay. No one succeeds at something worthwhile their first time around, because you know what? If you do, you don't learn anything from it. Failure teaches you a lesson, life lessons such as perseverance, learning to balance your energy in better ways, knowing when to ask for help. Failure can be a very good thing. And I never want to wish that any of you guys would fail in your endeavors. I wish you the best. I wish you love, happiness, and success. But don't be afraid to try because of failure, because it's another barrier that can be overcome with support. We can all get through this. Trust me on that one. As always, I have been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. Please give massive love to Osley for editing this. Thank you so much, mate. You're a big ledge in my heart, as are the rest of you. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Oh dear, that was a swear. Naughty boy, rub my nipples, naughty boy.